compared to the way we do it. And
damn, Isaac really trying to dig here. Nah, but I like it personally. You know, Isaac selling his business.
Right.
I want the business.
Wow.
I remember growing up in Indiana. I mean, I love those vibes. How do I say this? We need to figure out a way to make money.
A lot.
Bikes in a truck.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you learned from that negotiation?
The Hispanics go hard.
Bro, are you crazy? What the fuck?
How do you finance the actual deal and pay the seller?
You can pay fucking Bitcoin.
How much would you sell RIBB for?
$5.
Millie Max is in the I don't know why I've been enjoying your name more recently. I think it's because we did that episode.
The
I've just been
reveal?
on that Millie, yeah, the reveal. I just been on that Millie Max wave.
Yeah.
You've been rocking those Gucci's.
I should get another ones, bro.
Other pair of glasses?
Yeah, just to kind of switch it up. There's a homie at the bungalow that sells some. He has like crazy ones.
Legit?
Nah, they're like fake and shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, but that one's real, right?
Yeah, these are real.
You're not that type of guy, though.
But it
to
is.
get the fakies?
But like for RIBB and stuff like that.
Just to go to RIBB? Oh, yeah, because you probably don't want to wear the...
It's just crazy how the ones that Alex got, he said they were $5.
Yeah, bro. Those are really nice.
Bro, these are like 100x the cost. And
How much were those?
I forget, between 300 to 500.
Wow. We got a juicy episode today. When you told me about this idea, I really liked it because we're trying to provide value in this podcast. And I think something that has been super present in our lives has been the purchases of our businesses.
Right.
And, you know, we purchased RIBB bikes, and then we purchased Beachside. So I think it would be a really good episode to not teach, but just, I guess teach, but just talk about our experience purchasing these businesses. And you've been super involved in doing that. And I think you have a really good take on the entire process.
Yeah.
And then just our experience, I think, could benefit some people who might think about, do I start a business or do I buy a business? And like you've always said, I think a lot of times people don't think, let me buy a business. They just think, let me start one. And ever since you said that, I've really been super aware of how difficult it is to start a business from scratch. And I compare it to...
Especially like when you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've
like your
gone
first
through
business.
it. Yeah, like if you've gone through it, you know some things, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Or the fundamentals. And even then, it's, again, it will take a little bit of time. But yeah, if you know nothing and you're starting from scratch, it does make sense to buy a business.
Back in 2019, no, well, I want you to, should we go even further to being in Miami and you getting hit up by Dean?
I mean, this was in Miami. This was Indiana.
Really? Well, but he hit you up again in Miami, right?
No. Dean?
Yeah. About the truck.
No, I didn't know Dean until Indiana.
Huh.
2019.
Should we go back that far
We
to
can.
explain the process?
I think we kind of already shared that, but I could run through it.
Yeah, just run through it very quickly.
Yeah, so the first time I kind of figured out how to buy a business, guys, was on Facebook Marketplace. Someone posted RIBB, the truck that we rent our bikes out of. And at first I thought he was just trying to like start a franchise and sell this idea of bikes in a truck and then sell that in other places. And so I hit him up, and then he ended up telling me that he was actually just selling his business, his truck. He wasn't really trying to do that, but he was just looking for someone to take over. And yeah, I told him if I move to California, I'd love to hear the opportunity. So we ended up moving to California. He hit me up and he's like, hey, come check it out. And I was like, yeah, let's go see it. And so Isaac and I went, and that was the first time we kind of, you know, that was the first time we got into, how do I say this? The first time we were involved in buying a business.
But let me go even deeper than that, because I'm curious to understand what got you interested in reaching out to him or searching this up and being like, oh, this business is for sale. Like what? Because he wasn't doing that, right? Like he was not trying to franchise or anything. No. But what made you think, oh, I am interested in purchasing a business?
Well, we were trying to find a way to make money when we moved out here. And I was trying to search for an opportunity because, yeah, we were new to the state. And I was just like, we need to figure out a way to make money. And I was also very in the mindset of like, how do we make money as a team? No, not just like, how do I make money, but how do I get everybody involved to make money? All the guys that moved out here with us. And so, like I said, at first it didn't really cross my mind I'm buying a business, you know? At first I just saw it as like, we're buying this truck that can that allows bikes to be in there, and then we can post ourselves up at the beach. And that's what attracted me the most about the opportunity, which was, hey, you're going to be at the beach. And to me, that was just like, you know, I do kind of remember when we were in Miami, because that was the only time that we were really at the beach, right, in Miami. And I mean, I love those vibes, you know, I love those beach vibes. I remember we rode a bike there in Miami, and I think that was the first time that I understood how good it felt to ride a bike at the beach. And so it kind of reminded me of that. Like I said, everybody wants to go to the beach. I remember growing up in Indiana, everybody was trying to go to that beach. Did you ever go? The dunes? Yeah. It's like, you know, you will go like once or twice a year. Yeah. And it's like the best, you know?
I went with you and your family. Did you? And Tyler Bourne, remember?
Oh, bro, I remember this, bro.
And Tyler was not having it. We were just cracking up.
Having it, bro.
Thinking about how, like, the Hispanics go hard at the beach. And he was just not having it.
Because we rough it out there. Yeah. Like, we make a whole journey out of it.
Right. The food, whatever we can come up with, the sandwiches and stuff. But I remember riding the bike with you in Miami, and it didn't really cross my mind to even question, oh, I could start a business from this. I think back then,
right,
it was so foreign.
It was just an experience that you had, right?
Yeah, I just didn't think there was so much money there was a lot of money to be made in doing something like that. And fast forward to when we got here to California, I just remember how everything moved so quickly, and I was in the same mindset of, I think we're just buying a truck, and that's, you know, everything unraveled from there. But take us through the process of you talking to Dean about setting up the meetings. And I remember we went as the whole team to meet him, to check out the place. So just like take us through that and what you were thinking at that moment.
Right. As far as the whole process, it's a little bit hard to remember all the details. But yeah, pretty much, you know, once we moved out here, Dean hit me up and we met him here in Santa Monica. And did we bring the whole team? I think we had one meeting before that where he just showed us a truck and it was just us two. Yeah. At the garage. And then the next meeting we saw where we could put our trucks. Yeah. And I think in that moment I was just thinking, okay, I want to see if people are riding bikes, you know? Yeah. And we came to the beach and so many people were riding bikes. And I mean, in that moment I was just like, there has to be a possibility for us to rent some bikes. I didn't know what the potential could be, but I just saw so many people riding bikes that I was like, yeah, we have to be able to do it. And then from there, I mean, it's just going through the process of negotiating with the seller, in this case, Dean. But you know, once you're in agreement that you want to participate in this business and you want to buy this business, that's where the negotiations start. And you know, you start figuring out the pricing, the legal contract. Many times, I think the biggest hurdles are just the negotiations when it comes to the price and figuring out how you're going to pay for the business, because not many times, because I'm not 100% sure, but in our scenario, we've never always had all the money to pay for these businesses. I feel that a lot of people don't have all the money to pay for the businesses up front for what the seller is asking for. So many times you can do like seller financing. And so pretty much what that means is, let's say you're looking for a business, you're selling, you know, Isaac's selling his business. He wants 100,000 for it. And I say, hey, yeah, I want the business, but I only have $10,000. So could you seller finance the rest of the $90,000, which means Isaac gives me a loan of $90,000, and then, you know, he can set some interest, whatever, you know, again, this goes back to the negotiation.
Yeah.
Isaac says, yeah, I can pay me back in, you know, 12 months, 24 months, interest rate at this amount per month. You know, we just figure all those details out, and that's the main thing. And then obviously you have to do your due diligence as far as what you're getting in inventory, you know, what you're buying, maybe run through the business a little bit, obviously look at their numbers, which I think when we bought RIBB, I don't really think we saw any numbers, because he had everything on a notebook. I think he showed us maybe a couple of days, right? Like that he wrote things down on his notebook.
Yeah.
But he had no fucking like professional anything.
Well, he did come up with a spreadsheet, and this is when we were at a Starbucks. I don't know if you remember this. We were at a Starbucks, and he had his laptop and he created this spreadsheet where he showed the potential. Yeah.
I remember he showed the potential, but I don't remember him actually showing numbers.
Yeah, there were numbers in terms of what each truck, because he was trying to tell us, look, if you do a second truck, you do a second truck. So he had all those numbers on the spreadsheet, but that was about it. And the rest was just a notebook with his day-to-day rentals, with how much money he was getting, and the name of the renter, right? So it wasn't a lot, but just to break it down, bro, you went through, you know, the due diligence phase, negotiation, and then financing, pretty much. And I think it's important to just dive deeper into all these three. And
damn, Isaac, you're really trying to dig here.
Well, not too like crazy. I don't want to spend too much time, but
no, but I like it personally.
I think that in the due diligence, we did a really good job, because like you mentioned, the first thing that we did was go check out the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And we really inspected it. He opened it up. We looked inside just to make sure that everything, I think we even rode the truck. I don't know if I remember correctly, but I think he turned it on. And do you remember that, or am I tripping?
He might have.
And then aside from that, you mentioned I also wanted to see if people were actually renting bikes. So then another day we went to the beach, and we had him walk us through the entire area of where the competition was, where other spots were, and where we were going to be. And I remember we stayed there for some time, just scoping it out, making sure that people were actually riding bikes. Because that's the main thing that you want to.
Sorry to interrupt, but we also went to check out competitors and try to rent bikes from them.
Right. We also did that. And you want to make sure that you do these things before you start any sort of negotiation. Or I guess you can do it in tangent, right? But I think we did a really good job at just making sure that there was a market there and interest in renting bikes. And then you went to the negotiation, and I just remember how, well, for starters, right, you always want to try to negotiate the best price.
Right.
And you want to be prepared for whatever counter they could have, because they obviously are always trying to get the best price for something. And in this case, I believe what helped us was that we really believed that he wasn't selling us a solid, like he didn't have a crazy foundation for the business. And we thought he's just selling us a truck. The truck is just parked. Even though he had previous history of being there, he didn't have much records of reporting, right? Everything was kept on a notebook compared to the way we do it, right?
Right.
Like, there's no way you're coming to us trying to tell us you guys don't have data.
Right.
Bro, we have every single data possible for these type of situations. And in his case, he didn't have a website. He didn't have socials. And
I think he had an Instagram, but it was
dead, right?
Yeah.
And we believed that he was just selling us a truck. So we went in with that mindset and we lowered the price.
I don't know if we did lower the price.
No, we did, bro. A lot. I think the final price was $12K, right?
I think it was 15, wasn't it?
No. I believe it was $12K. Because we did 2 payments of 6.
Yeah. Another thing that I do want to mention, guys, is because one of the things that can be very difficult is, okay, well, how do I price this business? Like, how do I know how much to pay for this business? You know, even right now, as we're talking about these amounts, back then we didn't. I think, you know, what you're kind of trying to say is that he was just selling us a truck. So we were just like, well, let's just buy a truck. But many times when you are buying a business, basically what you want to see is, again, that record of data, of their numbers, the past 3 years. So that's usually the standard, looking at the past 3 years. And once you see the total amount that was made in those 3 years, you do a multiple. And just depending on the industries that you're in, the multiples can vary, right? But usually on average, I see 2 to 3x multiples. So what does this mean? Let's say there's a business out there that is making $250,000 gross, right? So no expenses, nothing. That's what they're making revenue. Then what you do is you start subtracting all the expenses. Let's say they have expenses of $150,000, right? So then the owner is left with $100,000. So from that amount, from the seller's discretionary earnings, it's called SDE, you do a multiple of 2 to 3x. So in this scenario, let's say, again, it's $100,000 that the business owner takes home. You do a multiple of 2 to 3x, meaning the business is worth $200,000 to $300,000. And that's like a very, general basic understanding on how to price a business, and for you to know, is this guy asking for too much? And for you to know what type of offer to throw out there and what's fair. Because one of the things that I've learned, and we've learned a lot, is that at the end of the day, in every negotiation, you want everybody to be happy, and, you do want to make an offer that is fair and that is just. If the business owner deserves it, right? Like if the business owner has laid it all on the line and has created a very good business, he worked hard for it. He's expecting to sell his business. You don't want to disrespect that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good explanation of how to price a business, the value of it. And you also have to really look at where the seller is in terms of his circumstances and how desperate he or she is to sell. In this case, when I look back at the purchase of the truck, I remember Dean probably didn't have any other buyers interested. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he did a good job at promoting the business.
And if there were any buyers interested, it was a very, like, so many things have to align for you to be like, all right, I'll run a bike rental truck.
For any business, it has to align. You have to align with the business, yeah.
And it didn't help him that he was not running it. Obviously,
Right.
when you go to a business, you want to see that it's running.
Right.
So we really had the upper hand here, and that's why I do believe that we were able to drop the price substantially, because we had all these things to our advantage. And I just remember the negotiation probably took maybe how many meetings? 2? 3?
Yeah, like I said, to me, it's hard to remember these specific details. But I do remember that we did have a few meetings, and they were pretty intense.
Yeah, that's the thing, guys, that in these meetings, they're going to be intense. And especially...
Why would you say they're intense?
Well, it does come down to personality of the people involved, like the buyer and the seller, but also because you're dealing with money, and the buyer is trying to get the best deal, and the seller, for the cheapest price, and the seller is trying to get the most money for the business. So you have the two opposites on the spectrum of, okay, I want the most money and I want to pay the least for it.
Yeah.
So getting to that middle, there's going to be tension. It's kind of like a tug of, what's that game called?
Tug of war?
Yeah, tug of war, where you're just trying to come to the middle. And
can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I also feel like it makes it hard because there's a lot of emotion that is connected from the business owner to the business.
Yeah.
And so, whenever you sell something that you're not really invested in, you're like, I'll let it go. But obviously something that, again, someone has worked really hard for, like you said, that's when they're definitely going to be looking for the most amount as possible.
Bro, I remember the last meeting that we had with them at that Starbucks. It got pretty crazy. I remember we were yelling over each other,
Yeah.
and people were just looking at us.
We were like, bro, are you crazy? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, bro, it was getting pretty intense. And this is the part where you really have to stay calm, collected, and try to understand the other person. I remember Max and I were doing I think we even did a role play. You and I, I'm Dean, you're Jesus.
Did we?
Yeah, I remember that.
I definitely don't think we did a good job in that first negotiation, hence why it got to that point where we were yelling on top of each other.
Yeah.
But I think, again, no one told us how to negotiate, right?
Yeah.
You listening, like, let's say someone's watching this right now. You have the opportunity to learn from us and understand that in that first interaction, you just have to really be, like you said, calm, cool, and collected, and have some negotiation tactics under your belt, which I highly recommend Chris Voss. If you search Masterclass Chris Voss Negotiations, I highly recommend buying that course. Because there's definitely ways to do negotiations and get what you want. But I think, what's one thing that you learned from that negotiation?
I think the part that stuck out to me the most, you mean like at the Starbucks setting, or just in general?
Yeah, like at that Starbucks, because weren't we closing at
that
point?
was the last. Yeah, that was the last meeting. And I mean, something that I learned was, just because I do remember that we got price that we were trying to get, the price that we were trying to get. In a way, we won the negotiation, but just staying firm with what you believe and the price that you think that this is valued.
Yeah.
And obviously on top of that, trying to handle his objections and remaining cool. Again, like you said, we didn't do the best job, but at the end of the day, with what we had, I feel like we did the best that we could.
Sure.
And yeah, what I learned was just how to get what you want, like the price that you're asking for, and prove more than anything, arm yourself with the resources to explain why you believe that this business is valued at that price. And yeah, just preparing yourself for battle there.
Gotcha.
How about you?
Yeah, I think for me it was a big part was just knowing how to handle the other person's emotions, and again, just trying to, I think throughout that conversation we were using a lot of logic, and you've even said this recently, but people don't operate out of logic. Like, people do operate out of logic, but
Yeah.
people's logics are different, and obviously it's biased, right?
Yeah.
Like, my logic, like, I'm really trying to fit it to my scenario, right? And in that moment, Dean was trying to fit his logic to his scenario, right? So he could get the edge on us. So I think really working, and again, this comes from Chris Voss, but in a negotiation, it has to be something where you're working together. Yeah. And you're both coming to an agreement, and it's not that, I know you just kind of said that, where it's like we won, and it is that, but it's gonna be nasty if it's like that. Yeah. It's gonna be nasty if you're very like, I'm paying 100,000, bro, and that's it. Yeah. Like, you're most likely gonna battle with that. But if you work together and you really try to make the other person position, for the other person to position himself in your shoes, I think that's one of the important things that sometimes maybe we didn't do that time correctly. And I think many times what people do is like, bro, look at it my way. I have to do this, and that. This doesn't make sense, Instead, what you should do is like, how does it make sense to do this and that? And then you start thinking, right? Yeah. Now it's not me telling you like what you need to think. Yeah. It's me asking you. And now you going through that, now your mind starts thinking about me, right? Yeah. And so that's something that definitely helps in those negotiations. But the main thing is just not losing your cool, I think that's one of the main things. If you lose your cool, then things are just gonna get ugly. And like I said, you might still get your way, but especially when you buy a business, you don't want that transfer of ownership to have like bad karma or just negative energy.
Okay, bro. So we already talked about the due diligence, the negotiation. Now let's talk about the financing, because we did pay via a loan. We got a loan. But I want to ask you, I know that you started really thinking about credit scores and credit cards and thinking about loans way back when. How did that start? And how did you think about, let me see if I can get a loan to purchase this truck?
Right. So I think there's several, I know that there's several ways that, again, you can purchase a business. And, I explained the whole seller financing. You can always go a traditional route, which is, hey, I'm just going to get a loan from the bank. That's an option that you can do. You can also get a private investor, right? A private lender. someone that says, yeah, I'll give you the money. And again, you just settle the difference with that person. So, there's different ways that you can get around and be able to get the money to the individual. In our situation, because we had to pay, $12,000 to $20,000, because I'm including the bikes and stuff like that. When I was in Texas, I decided to start working on my credit score, and because we were already running a marketing agency, we had a business credit card. And as you all know, you guys can collect, well, I don't know if you all know, but you can collect points from your personal credit cards and your business credit cards. And so again, I was getting very into credit cards and having a good credit score, because when I was in Texas, I couldn't even get freaking internet without having to pay a deposit, because I was high liability because I had no credit score. And so they're like, hey, you're gonna have to pay us a deposit to get this service. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I started working on my credit score, and I started getting pretty obsessed with it. And that's when I learned a lot about the points and that whole system. So then that allowed me to get business credit cards for our business, for our agency, because we had clients that were spending, how much, like $3,000 to $6,000 a month. And so basically we were using their money to spend on our credit cards to pay for the marketing budget. And so over time, I built my credit score. I think by the time I had RIBB, we bought RIBB. I think I had maybe 3 credit cards, maybe 2 business, maybe 3 business credit cards. And so there's a credit card, guys, that allows you to pretty much get this credit card, and the bank says, all right, I'll give you $10,000, $15,000 on this line, and you don't have to pay any of that money back till a year later with 0 interest.
That's juicy.
Which is the crazy part, right? Because any credit card, you can wait a year, but you're going to accumulate interest, right? With this credit card, 0% interest for 12 months. And, back then we didn't have $10,000 to $20,000 to buy a business. So we were like, how do we do this? How do we pay for it? And this idea just came to me. I'm like, well, what if we just pay it from a credit card? And then we don't have to make the payment on that for 12 months. We make the money, and then we just pay it back. Yeah. And we pay 0 interest. So that was one of the biggest hacks. And it's hard to buy a business that's a bigger size, because no credit card company is going to give you a $100,000 loan, a credit card loan, for 0% interest.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was clutch that you started. Although it's crazy that all the work that you do years prior, you never know when it's going to become helpful in anything that you're doing. But you started in Austin, like you mentioned, and then a couple years later, working in California, trying to buy a business, and you're like, oh, like I can do this, and I have a solution to financing it. And okay, so we get the loan, and at this point, how does Dean want to get paid, and how does that work in terms of, do you take that money out of the credit card? You just, like, how do you do it? You get a check? How do you finance the actual deal and pay the seller?
So I believe that with Dean, we structured a 2-payment deal, right? Yeah. Where we paid half of, we paid a deposit to be able to acquire it. And then we said, hey, give us some time so we make some money, and then we pay the rest back. And of course, like I said, we also had to buy bikes, because again, it just was the truck. It had no bikes. What are other things that we needed? Website, just, all the things that, did we have a price sign? I don't think so. We had to make a new one,
We had to make a new one.
So, just like little expenses here and there that we needed to operate, business license, etc. And so we structured a deal with him where we said, hey, we'll do 2 payments. And again, it just goes back to like, hey, well, what type of form of payments do you accept? Hey, we want to pay with a credit card. Can we pay you through PayPal? Because then, you know, we just connect their credit card through PayPal. We send them the money. Boom. So it just goes back to, you know, you can pay fucking Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do Bitcoin, you could fucking pay Bitcoin.
Right.
You just have to settle that with the seller, you know?
That would be crazy, bro. If you sold a business for... How much would you sell RIBB for in terms of Bitcoin?
In terms of Bitcoin at what it is right now, which is 30?
30.
It's 10 minimum.
10 Bitcoin?
Minimum.
Dude, that would feel really nice. But we wouldn't...
It would be more like...
Nah, it would be way more, bro.
15 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 Bitcoin.
That would be crazy, bro.
It would be...
Imagine taking a payment of 15 Bitcoin. Seeing the
nice.
wallet and 15 Bitcoin right there. Okay. So I like that. And yeah, I remember we did every deal is going to be different in terms of how the seller wants to be paid. Sometimes they'll tell you, oh, and Dean was super helpful in that regard, that he was willing to cooperate with us on the structure, on the payment, split it. And sometimes you have to give everything up front, sometimes at least 20% down. There are so many ways that the seller will structure the payment. And then again, you have to negotiate on how you want to pay it for. But I think at the end of the day, bro, you do, because at the beginning of the episode, you said, well, most of the time we didn't have the money to pay for the businesses. But I think it's smarter to go the route of taking out like a credit card or using other people's money to finance it, and then just work and get your money and then pay it. But I do want to talk about, because our second business was different, because we actually paid with the capital that we've generated from working RIBB and our agency. And this happened 2022, right?
Last year.
So 3 years later, after purchasing RIBB, this time was a little bit different, because I think that you were actually looking up on Biz by Zell and actually doing your research. And that's where you found John, right? Johnny?
Yeah.
That's where you found Johnny, and he was selling the business, listed it. If you guys don't know what Biz by Sell is, it's kind of like basically like an Airbnb.
It's a marketplace. It's a marketplace for businesses to be bought and sold.
Yeah, and you search where you want to buy business, in what city, retail. What type of business. So you pretty much just went on there and put bike shops in California.
Yep.
So Max put bike shops in California, then Beachside Bike Rental showed up. Bro, what was the price that he had listed at the beginning?
I think he had it at 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
Wow. And so I remember when you came up to me and you showed me the listing, or you told me, hey, I found this bike shop, and we talked about it, and I wasn't sold on it just because of the price. I was like, this seems a little bit too high. Let's do our research. And we pretty much just went through this list again of due diligence, negotiation, financing. And I don't think that we'll have the time to go in depth at the same, because a lot of things will be repeated.
Yeah.
But we followed the same process that I just mentioned. And I remember that it was last year, beginning of the year, that you went to Beachside, right? Yeah. I think you went to go talk to him, and you checked out the spot. And most business owners are not as meticulous as we are with their transactions and reports and how much they're making.
I don't know if most, but there's a lot of business owners who are very careless when it comes to tracking that information.
Well, when you think about small businesses, bro,
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are ran by regular people that have,
For example, Funride, he had his stuff together.
yeah,
Because you just need to have an accountant, you know?
yeah,
And that's the thing that a lot of these people didn't have an accountant. Also,
right. But I think that's the next level where you're making more than that 250 range,
Yeah.
where you really, because of how organized you are, because you're meticulous with your numbers,
Right.
you care about the numbers, you are going to improve the business. But this guy, Johnny, he didn't have much to show. I remember when I went to go talk to him and try to figure out the numbers, he told me that he had all the money. He had another business,
A massage
a massage. What's it called? A massage?
salon practice?
No, therapeutic something. He massages people.
He gives massages.
and money that was going into that money that was coming from that business was going to the same account as the bike rentals. So, and it was his personal account, and it was just a mess.
And another thing is the reason why he also didn't have that data is because he had barely been operating that business too. So again, going back to what I was telling you guys, that you generally want to see 3 years worth of data. And why do you want to see that? Because, you know, let's say someone starts a business, they're 1 year in, you just don't know the conditions of the market in that year. You know, if it's COVID, obviously they're not going to be making as much. So you would want to go back and see, okay, well, how was it prior to COVID? And vice versa. Like, let's say a business was just open for some reason, it was during that boom. Like, for example, a lot of business during COVID experienced a boom. For example, Zoom, right? Like, they experienced a surplus in customers because of COVID. So then you'd want to go back and average those. I don't think that's something that I said, but let's say, you know, you look at the first year, they made 300. Second year, they made 500. And then the third year, they made 400. Well, then what you want to do is add up those 3 years, 300, 500, 400. That gives you 1.2 million, and you divide that by 3. Your average is 400,000. Now you do the multiple on that. And again, when Johnny was asking for $200,000 for his business, it was, you know, outrageous, because there wasn't enough data to support a multiple like that. Maybe that first year was like that, but it's just, you know, you just shouldn't. And it's hard for me because, and it might be hard for anyone, because you're like, well, you just did this amount this year.
Yeah.
I see the potential. You're excited about the business, because that's what happens when you look for a business. There's a lot of excitement. You know, you just found a new opportunity. It aligns with you. It's what you were looking for. It makes good money. It's where you want it to be. And so you get very excited, and you can get lost in that potential. But it's very important that you keep a cool head. And that's what Isaac was doing. He was keeping a cool head by just you know, not falling in love with the business too soon. And so that's why it's important to look at that 3 years worth of data to come to an amount as well.
That was a good recap of the beginning stages of buying Beachside. And similar to the purchase with Dean, we went through a negotiation period. The thing about Johnny was that he was really desperate, and
Dean was too.
Yeah, both of them were pretty
and that's what
desperate.
Helped.
But that's what helped to reduce the price. We ended up buying the business for $80K, and again we did a split payment of 2. But what helped us was, again, that we did our due diligence, and we dug deep into, okay, show me your reports. Where is this money coming from? What months were your busiest?
Yeah.
Right? How much inventory do you have? How long have you been running this business for? And in every step of the way, there was just a lack of information that left us kind of feeling like, and this is what the seller will start to feel, he's going to start feeling like, well, shit, like that's true. Like I don't have all the reports. I don't have anything. They'll try to hide it. Obviously they won't tell you, but they'll start to feel it. And eventually what happened was that Johnny kept reaching out when we had let the business go because we were just not feeling it. It wasn't making too much sense. And Johnny just kept coming back saying, look, I'll let it go for less. Let's do 120. Then we kind of said, you know what?
I think like within a couple hours, he like brought it down $40,000.
Yeah, bro, that was the most insane thing. And that's another tactic that you guys could use of not being, don't look so desperate to get the business. And
you just have to understand again where they stand and how desperate they are. You know how desperate they are, and how many buyers they have as well. You know.
Yeah.
Because if they do have a lot of buyers, you don't want to lose out on the deal, right?
Exactly.
If it obviously makes sense and it's something that you want. But yeah.
Yeah. So we let the business go for some time. Really tried to show him that we were not dying to get the business, and in fact he was the one that he was in need of letting the business go because he wanted to focus more on his massage, being a chiropractor. And we were just like, okay, if you want us to buy it from you, you're gonna have to come down, because I kept telling Max, bro, I really don't think that this business is worth that much. And long story short, he came
in that
down.
moment and what it was.
Right. And long story short, he brought it down to 80K. And it got to a point where Max and I were like, bro, this is such a good price that it wouldn't make sense for us to give it a shot. And so we did. Yeah,
and just again, I just want to reiterate to be careful on that potential, because a lot of the times business owners will say, yeah, if you do this, if you do that, and you do this, like it could do this. And it's like, but it's not. It's not that right now. And I have to do that. And I don't know if that will happen. So that's like one piece of advice that, and like maybe you do feel capable, because that's one of the things that I was going to say too. In that due diligence part, what you want to do is see what is the potential, what is it that you can bring, what is it that you can add, because ultimately you want to improve that business.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to pay it off sooner. You want it to be more profitable. You know, if the business is making 100K, you want to see if there's an opportunity to make it 150, because then that is going to allow you to pay that loan much quicker than if you're just keeping it at 100. But let's say you figure out that potential. Like this is what happens to me. Like I would tell Isaac, and even Isaac, again, because he saw the vision with the service department, you could see the vision and you could be like 200 makes sense, because if I get this place, I can do all of this. Yeah. And so you might justify it in your mind, but that's, again, you have to be careful and don't display that excitement and emotion and those ideas. You know, you just really want to say, look, this is what it is right now. And I can't do anything more off that, because it's just potential. If it was that, then we'd be talking a different price, but that's not what it is right now. Yeah, pretty much don't get sold on the potential. Be a realist and try to paint that picture of, look, this is where the business is at and this is how much is worth. Then on to the financing. Like I said, this time was different because we actually had capital that we could use to purchase the business. And I think that we just went that route because we sort of had the money. Yeah. Right? And because, what else? Well, we couldn't get a credit card to be that high. We didn't know any private we didn't know any private lenders, and we didn't want to go the traditional route. And also because we did a really good deal, I feel like, which is there was no interest on that. It was like, but part of the reason why there was no interest is because we paid the business in like 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. So again, that's just a negotiation. Obviously, if you're gonna tell the business owner, "Hey, I'm gonna get you paid in 2 years," they're not gonna say, "All right." Like, I mean, they could,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be tougher for them to say, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna take any interest on it." So I think that was part of the tactic too. It's like, "Hey, let me give you a big, nice, juicy deposit,
Right.
and then I'll pay you again in 6 months. But let's not do no interest, no nothing."
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if you want to add anything else, we can, but I feel like we covered Beachside well enough. And I want to talk about two other things to wrap it up. Number one, I want to talk about the biggest deal that we would have done
Yeah.
and what happened there,
Damn.
why we missed it, and then finish with just like maybe like 5 minutes of why, if you think that buying, who is it for to buy a business and who is it for to start one, and the pros and cons, and then wrap it up.
Yeah. Bro, your veins look crazy.
Oh shit, they do, huh? The pump.
All right, guys. So by the time we got to our third deal, again, I love looking at businesses all the time. And honestly, I don't know, man, but if you're ever looking to buy a business, hit me up. I'm always looking for businesses, and we're always trying to get in on new opportunities. And honestly, I mean, I just want to continue to buy businesses, guys, and it's just amazing to continue to. You guys saw that we had that interview with Sebas, and he's a partner, and so to me, it's hard to have partners because it's not easy to trust anyone in your business. When you're dealing with money, it's definitely not something that's easy, and but definitely want to just buy more businesses, and I know it's hard to do it by ourselves, so definitely having more partners is appreciated. But as I was looking for more business, I found a fucking gold mine, another bike shop in Newport Beach, and it was making pretty good money, and it was priced at a reasonable price. But yeah, do you want to guide us through that experience?
Okay, but how much was the business, and how much was,
Give the details.
yeah, how much was he making?
So when I saw the business, I'm pretty sure they were making $250,000 per year, and I think they priced it at $800,000, right?
Yeah, 800K. So as you guys can see, RIBB 12 to 15,
Right.
Beachside
80.
80, and then we were looking into an $800,000.
And this is like, I'm shitting my pants.
Yeah.
Like, this is not. You're just like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
how do we afford such business? How does that make sense?
Right. So, okay, let's walk. There's so much to unpack. Okay, so you find this business. We go through the same process. This time, we're thinking we need to get a private lender, right? And that's when we built the deck, because this time we were like, Shark Tank type shit. We were like, we need to pitch this idea to someone that is willing to give us $800,000, or because I know that we were like also thinking, well, we'll get some money for the down payment, a good chunk, and then we'll seller finance the rest.
All right.
So we build the deck. We talk to some friends that were helping us put it all together. We do a bunch of meetings with them, practicing our deck. I reach out to one of my good friends, and her parents are fond of like finding these opportunities too, and wanting to partner up.
Yeah.
And we do this presentation to them, right? And I think we killed it. I think we did a pretty good job because they were interested.
For sure.
But for some reason, it just fell through.
Well, what happened is that we got the response from them too.
Right.
So, I mean, there was a lot of negotiation. We're trying to figure out, like, are we going to do seller financing? And I think we agreed to seller financing, right?
Yes.
We agreed to seller financing with the business. but it was going to be a lot of seller financing. And here the mistake was that, again, in that process of us making that pitch deck and figuring this out and trying to get investors and this and that, so much time was going by, like a lot of time. And in that moment, as we were trying to figure everything out, and we finally got back to the owner saying, hey, yeah, we're wanting to do this. This is certain. We'll proceed like this. In that moment, another offer came in. And it was a better offer than ours. And so we had the opportunity to give an offer back or match it or give a better one. And in that moment, we decided not to, just because we felt like they were bluffing. We felt like they were bluffing,
Yeah.
and were just trying to get us to do more. And just also felt like, and also, guys, this was a very like uncomfortable situation we were in. Again, we have RIBB, we have Beachside, and there was just so many changes that were gonna happen. And this was middle of fucking summer, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this was middle of fucking summer, the busiest time of the year. And just so much was going on. I remember I ended up going to Colorado, and I told you, I'm like, bro, I need this break. Like, I just need it. But yeah, that's one of the things that, you know, in some situations, like Beachside, Isaac said, we let it go, and the business kind of came back to us. The owner did. But for example, this business, it was such a good opportunity. And even when the guy was talking to me, he was like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that this business sells. I'm getting so many offers. But they did get one initial offer, and it fell through. And I think that's why I also thought, these guys are bluffing. They're not going to go through with it.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I don't know what other things you want to add. There's a lot to add, but.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the higher you go in the levels, the more complex things will get, and the more professional things will get, and the more competition you will have. And I think in this case, it was our first time dealing with an actual broker.
Oh yeah.
Doing RIBB, doing Beachside, we were just
Can you explain what a broker does?
Yeah, we were just dealing with the seller, but for this business, the broker just acts as the middleman between the seller and the buyer. And this is to prevent situation,
a fucking fist fight.
A fist fight, prevent like emotions just getting tangled up and not arriving at a deal. And basically it just makes the transaction smoother. And at the end of the day, if you are the seller and you're running the business still, you don't have the time to be dealing with all the inquiries that you get to try to purchase your business. So you hire a broker to help you deal with all this stuff. At the end of the day, when you sell the business, they get a cut. They get a commission from the total price. But in this case, again, that's one thing that it was just different for us. And also that there were, again, it was a very juicy opportunity. There was competition, like other buyers interested in buying it.
Which it felt like it, but it didn't feel like it, because we did let go of the business, remember? Because we gave him that offer, and then some time went by, and then I ended up hitting him up, the broker, and I'm like, hey, has the business sold, you know? And he's like, no, it hasn't. Are you still interested? And again, we reactivated everything.
Yeah.
But again, in that reactivation, we still allowed more time, which, you know, just allows anyone to continue to get in. And the thing is that if there's nothing signed, you know,
right,
you could be, you know.
And that's the thing, bro, that I think part of our mistake, because we were newbies, was that when we were going back and forth with the broker about the terms and what we were agreeing on, he just kept making the adjustments, right, to the agreement. And we thought in our heads, the seller, the actual owner is agreeing. And
which he was, but he was also not. It was weird. That's the hard thing about, I don't know, I think for me, brokers, they're in the best interest of the seller. They're not because again, they're going to get a commission. So they want to sell the business. So they're not going to negotiate down, they will help you because, at the end of the day, they have to give them, if it's the offer they're receiving, then, he has to display it to the seller. But obviously he wants to fight for the bigger purchase price, the highest purchase price.
The highest, yeah. So I think, that was one of our mistakes, that I think we didn't move fast enough. And because we were lacking the funds, there are also the more people that now we know someone who could potentially lend us money. So if you have those type of connections and you've been through it, you're going to know how to move the ball faster, how to move forward faster. And that's what that's how you're going to be able to get the business, if you're able to move the fastest, especially when it's a really good opportunity. Yeah. And in this case, we were just barely trying to pull lenders together, getting our name out there. Hey, we have this vision. Yeah. We took forever doing the deck. He was saying, hey guys, where are you guys at? Texting us. It was the middle of summer, so we were super busy. And just one thing to another led to us not being able to purchase the business, but it would have been life changing to have that business. And I mean, it would have been, Max and I would have had to separate. He would have lived somewhere else.
Newport vibes.
And Newport
baddies.
I mean, everything happens for a reason, but we learned a shit ton during that process.
And I think that's one of the most important things, guys. Like, this is the most important thing I think on my end is, like, even if you don't have the money, just start talking to business owners who are selling their business and act like you do.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do now. And that's what we did in these situations, because you'll get practice, and you'll understand, because you're not going to know, if you're going to try to land, we kind of did landing a very good deal in our first deal, but it's tough, you don't know what you're looking for. And, Isaac and I, we had a lot of experience already running a business, we had a marketing agency. So, you just have to understand what level of experience you have. But like I said, I'm always looking for businesses, and I'm always inquiring about businesses just to even get a look at, how businesses, like, again, when you like, you can do this right now. You can search on biz buy sell, business for sale, blah, blah, blah. Like, think about whatever market you want to be in. Let's say you want to be in the tourism market, like we are. Let's say you want to be in a restaurant, whatever. Laundromats, laundromats are big ones. Just all these businesses. Just look for that. You'll find one, and you can start getting to know the business, and you can ask the questions, because again, you're doing your due diligence, right? So they have to disclose this information, but you can start asking questions like, well, how'd you do this? How long have you been doing this? How'd you get the clients? What kind of problems have you had? All of these informations, they're going to tell you. Obviously, you're going to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement, just saying that you're not going to spread this information all over the internet or to other people. So, you just got to keep your mouth shut, but obviously you're going to know this information. And so that's one thing that you can do right now. You don't need any money, and it's going to help you a lot to understand, that's what gave me also an understanding, guys, on how much money can be made out there. Because again, a lot of people have this illusion that you can make millions of dollars. Like we were talking about that in the last episode. And, when you look at how a lot of these small businesses operate, a lot of them are making 100, 200. If a business is making $300,000, it's like, damn, that's a really good business.
Yeah.
And if you find one for $1 million that's making $1 million, that bitch is gonna be, $3 million to $5 million in cost to purchase. So you just want to get that experience, and it's just it just helps so much in learning.
Yeah, bro. So in your experience, what are your thoughts between, should I buy a business or should I start my business?
Should I buy a business? Is there like any type of context?
I mean, just
behind
general advice, as far as who should start a business and who should buy a business, and yeah, pros and cons between of the two.
I think there's people who kind of see things very clearly and just have a natural way of making things work. And I think you kind of tell through your life if you're that type of person. Like, are you just naturally the type of person who does something and it works? You're kind of like scrappy and things start to just fall into place. But again, if you're that person, definitely, you could, build your own business. But I like saying in general, it's pretty good to buy a business, because again, you just don't know what you don't know. And buying a business will allow you to just kickstart everything. Obviously, you're gonna start in some type of debt. But if you think about it, any business, the reason why sometimes these businesses are priced at a 2 to 3x multiple is because if you start a business, you're not going to see that business be profitable into that second, third year,
Yeah.
Because obviously you're still going to have your startup expenses and trying to get the customers and everything. So it's just kind of like you putting in the work for, starting it up. But difference again, guys, is that the business is already operating, and if you did a good due diligence and you see that and this business is not going to die the next year, then you got a business that is already working. And like I said, what you want to do is make sure that it has more potential and that you can bring more to it, so it in return can be paid off quicker. So I usually recommend buying a business for the people who just, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that want give me the fast cut,
Yeah.
like they say the microwave results, right?
The microwave.
So they just want everything given to them, right?
Yeah.
And so this is like one of the best ways, where it's like you'll be given everything that business owner has figured out until that point, and you get to inherit all that information, and then you just build on top of that.
Yeah. From our experience, we've bought 2 businesses and we've started 2 businesses, H&D and Ride Baby Cars.
Right.
And just by looking at those 2, comparing the 2, you're going to be more original if you start something, because it's something that you're starting from scratch. But it's definitely going to be more difficult to get it up and going. I mean, you know how long we've been trying to rent the Corvette, and we're still in the process of
just figuring out the logistics, insurance,
agreements, contracts, all these little details.
Whereas if you would have bought businesses like that, they would have already told you, hey, here's the agreements that we have, here's the insurance that we use. It's just, time. Again, it's time, that you're also buying.
Yeah. I mean, we were looking into a car rental business that was for sale. Cars would have been there, the process would have been there, customers would have been there. And when I look at Ride Baby Cars, it's one car, right? Like, there's nothing in place. We have to create all the content, all the marketing, start from scratch. So that's just something to take into account, that yes, you're going to be more original. Maybe you have an idea that
maybe it's cheaper too.
Yeah, maybe it's cheaper too, that an idea that you're super passionate about, and you're like, there's just nothing like this out there.
Exactly.
And I have to create this because it's non-existent. So that's where it makes sense to start your own thing. And also because you like Max said, it's cheaper. You can start very slow. You don't have to get in debt. You don't have to get a loan. You don't have to get a private lender or use your own funds. And yeah, it's just going to take a little bit more time to turn a profit and see it grow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you have an original idea, then you should go the route of buying your business, because, not every business yeah, not every business opportunity is out there. You know, if you're looking for, I don't know, how to fucking sell helmets, bike helmets, you know, motorcycle helmets. I don't know if there's a business that's doing that and that's for
Yeah.
sale, right? So, yeah, if you do have an original idea, then definitely go the route of starting something yourself. Or if it's an idea that's not being sold out there in the marketplace, then, you know, you're going to have to start that yourself.
Yeah. All right, bro. I mean, I think
Is that
it's
it?
yeah, I think we've been going for some time,
How long?
like an hour and 15 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
These always go by fast, I feel like.
Yeah.
But they also take a long time, for sure. Yeah, bro. I think, I hope you guys like that.
Like the info.
Like the info. That's, you know, that's where a lot of our expertise has comes from. But definitely, like I said, hit me up.
Yeah. Or if you need a lender, hit us up.
Yeah, honestly, like, you know, we
No, for
know
real.
we got like maybe we could put some of our money, but we also have contacts to people who could lend you money. So if you have a business that you're like, oh, I really want this business, but I don't have the money, you know, we got people who can lend you that money. Maybe us.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, found it helpful to learn from our experience buying businesses, and took a few nuggies to be able to decide whether you want to start your own business or buy a business. Just go to Biz Buy Sell. I think that's the best advice that Max gave. Just go through the process. Even if you don't have the money or are not ready to buy a business, just go look at businesses and go to these meetings with the sellers. At the end of the day, they're business owners and they're going to have some nuggies for you too. So just
And
learn.
there's like businesses in every market.
Yeah.
So just learn the market. It's just like, oh, how much does a cafe shop make?
Yeah.
You know, how much does this make? How much does that make? And you're just gonna get so much information and insights to everything.
Yeah. And even if you don't buy the business, you're going to gather so many insights that you're like, all right, I'm ready to start my own shit.
Right. But don't. No, just kidding.
Or we'll buy you out. All right, guys. See you in the next episode. Make sure you drop a like. Comment what was your favorite thing. Comment whether you have bought a business or if you're starting one, and what you thought about this episode. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Peace, guys.
See ya.